Welcome everyone. It's so nice to have you join us today. My name is Amy Rosenfeld. I'm a registered dietitian at Northern Westchester Hospital, part of Northwell Health in Mount Kisco, New York. This program is brought to you by our Center for Healthy Living, which is our health and wellness location and all locations for cooking programs virtually in the community at this time. This program that you're attending today is homemade Halloween treats, which is very exciting to me because Halloween was always one of my favorite holidays as a child, and certainly continues to be as I do Halloween with my own children. So welcome. We're going to be making a few different recipes today. Just move to the side, there we go. Our recipes today are four different things. We have our mummy pizza, we have coconut bars, which is a homemade candy bar. We're going to be making strawberry ghosts, a version of chocolate covered strawberries, and something I like to call apple monster snacks, which is a really fun play on apples and peanut butter for Halloween. Before we get started on our actual recipes, I am a registered dietitian. So for me, I always like to promote ways that we can celebrate holidays, particularly holidays that are really focused on sugar and candy, in non-candy focused ways. And Halloween, yes, I agree, should include something that is a special sweet treat for those who love candy, and to help children celebrate trick-or-treating in a safe way this year. But also, there are lots of ways to celebrate Halloween without candy. So I'm just going to lower my camera, and throughout the presentation I'm going to lower my camera so you can actually see my hands while I'm cooking. I'll pop it up and I'll pop that down to check in on everybody, but just to let you know, I'm not going anywhere. Here we go. Okay, so some really fun ways you can celebrate Halloween without candy is to get creative, right? Halloween is all about festivity, but it doesn't mean it has to be all about sugar. So if you see some examples here of things that I've made lots of different examples with fruits and vegetables that you can play on the Halloween theme and still make it fun. So I have here what I like to call my mummy apple. So I just took an apple peeler and peeled every which way and put in some chocolate chips for eyes. This can be a great thing as you welcome your children home from school or for a small socially distant celebration this year. I have my banana ghosts. I just took off the bottoms of the banana and saved the spooky top, and again used mini chocolate chips. And then I just invested in some Halloween shaped cookie cutters. So I have bats here, and I took my traditional whole wheat bread and cut them into the shape of bats. You can top this then with anything. You could top this with avocado. You could top this with hummus. You could top this with traditional sandwich meats on top of here to have mini fun shaped sandwiches. And I'll say that cookie cutters in general are a wonderful way to kind of spice up your sandwiches if you have a kid that really needs like a little extra motivation to eat. I have cookie cutter shapes of all kinds, depending on what my children are into at the moment. So for Halloween, I definitely will be making them grilled cheese on these little bats this year. And then I took the opportunity to carve something other than a pumpkin. I carved a pepper, because why not? If I were to have a small gathering at my house, I would use this as an opportunity for a crudité boat. Maybe I'd fill the bottom, again, with some type of healthy dip, and fill it with the top of whatever vegetable your choice. I chose a green one, so it sort of looked like the top of a traditional pumpkin, but you could really fill it with whatever you want. And again, it just makes eating fruits and vegetables a little bit more fun and celebrating Halloween in a non-candy way. All right, so let's move on to our first recipe of today. We have our mummy pizza. So if you're cooking along with me, these are the ingredients that you want to include. So you want to have all-purpose flour, you want to have wheat flour, baking powder, salt, plain Greek yogurt, and then our toppings. So our low-sodium tomato sauce, our string cheese, and our olives, which are decorative for eyes. Okay, so what I have here in my bowl is all-purpose flour mixed with whole wheat flour. And I do that because it gives it a little bit extra of nutritional value, a little bit extra fiber, a little bit extra protein from the whole grains, and makes my pizza a little bit healthier. I mix together my dry ingredients. So in here is my all-purpose flour, my wheat flour, my baking powder, which is my rising agent, and my salt. And I just kind of, you could sift it if you have a sifter, or if you're like me and maybe a little bit lazier in that regard, you could just well mix it. Now, this is a great pizza dough recipe if you want to make healthy pizza dough that's yeast-free and just a little bit healthier and fast. The really strong part that brings it all together is the Greek yogurt. So it's really important that you're using plain Greek yogurt as your additive. You don't want to use, it doesn't really work with plain regular yogurt. So I have a 2% plain Greek yogurt here. And it's about a cup, and I'm gonna mix that in, and a cup of the yogurt would be about like one of those little individual containers. So I'm gonna add that in here to my dry ingredients, and then I'm just gonna mix it, okay? And again, segueing from what I was talking about before, this recipe is a really, really, really great way to celebrate Halloween without candy. We definitely are going to make homemade candy today because I think it's Halloween. We need to have some sweet. But I think it's also good to learn ways that you can celebrate Halloween without candy. Okay, so this takes a little bit of like incorporation here. It's going to start out like sort of crumbly when you're making it, and it just takes a little bit of work. I'm going to take off my rings and really get my hands in there, making sure my hands are, yes, they are nice and clean and washed. But I often think that using your hands are the best kitchen tool. So working the dough until it's crumbly for sure. It's going to start to combine. All right. I'm just going to move my spoon out of the way there. There we go. And this is definitely a much healthier version of a pizza dough that you could use for anything. I often use this dough to make breakfast pizza for my kids. Like sometimes I'll make it on a Sunday morning. I'll take this dough and I'll put eggs on top of it, maybe with some spinach if they'll let me. And I'll use this dough for anything. You could also use it to make like homemade chicken rolls if that's something that you like. And what I always recommend whenever you can is there something that you love, like pizza, right? Which is like a little bit more of a special treat food. If you're having something like pizza, always try to make it yourself if you want to have it more often, because it's definitely a healthier choice if you're making it yourself. You're able to control the ingredients. You're able to decide. Let me try to get a little more yogurt in there, a little more moisture. You're able to decide how much salt you want to have, how much extra fat is in there. You're able to control the ingredients and add extra vegetables when you want to. So it's definitely a good choice to, whenever possible, try making your own. Making your own takeout is always a good choice. Okay. So I've kind of really incorporated my dough as much as I think this dough is going to be. See? And you're going to divide it and flatten it. Okay? Because you want to make your pizzas individual. They're cuter that way. So on a floured surface, a little bit of extra flour here so that my dough doesn't stick to my counter. Go. And again, yes, a nice clean counter, right? I'm going to start to divide my dough. So I'm going to cut it into smaller pieces. And quarter it. And you can use a rolling pin, but again, if you're doing this with your family, you really don't have to. or if you're me and you just would prefer the workout like this. Okay. Really try to flatten it out. And if you don't have a rolling pin at home, the other option is you could use a can. I often give that to my kids. It's a little bit easier for them to roll, a little less cumbersome, and definitely something that most of us have lying around the house. So I take that, and then again, if you don't have a cookie cutter, it's 2 in 1. So I roll it, and then I use it as a cookie cutter. Ta-da! Okay, and I'm going to do that again. So we have 2 mummy pizzas. And you could do it in whatever shape you want. In theory, we could do it with our, also with my bat, or I could do it with any of the cookie cutters you have lying around. The shape might not be exactly the way you want it, but you definitely could do it that way. And then you can make them all year. They don't have to just be mummy pizzas. Mummy pizzas are just the decoration for what we're doing today. But you could use this recipe and make cute shaped pizzas any way you like. Okay. So I'm gonna make my mummy pizzas into circles like this. And then the big thing when you're making pizza is you want to pre-cook the dough a little bit so that the dough is a little extra crunchy on the bottom. And then I'll show you another trick. Another trick is you're gonna take your dough and you're gonna poke it with a fork so that the bubbles doesn't turn into one big bubble. I like a pizza bubble as much as the next person, but you don't want it to be pure bubble. That would be a little silly, right? So I'm gonna take my dough and I'm gonna put it into the oven so that it pre-bakes a little bit and gets extra crunchy. And then I'm gonna take it out after a little bit, about, I'd say like, these are small, maybe like 7 or 8 minutes, and we'll put the toppings on and put it back into the oven. So I'm just gonna stick these in the oven here. And we'll get started on our next recipe. Let me just clean up just a little bit so that I don't get flour all over me. Always a good idea to clean as we go, right? So we all try and strive to do. Okay, so as we're waiting for that to cook just a little bit, I'm gonna move on to the next one, just to get that prepped and started. So our coconut bars. Like I said, the coconut bars are, check in, hi. The coconut bars are a homemade version of a candy bar that we probably all know and love, right? Chocolate and coconut, get where I'm going with this? That's where we're making a homemade version of that. Optional, you can add an almond on top, because sometimes you want an almond on top, and maybe today you don't feel like it. So you definitely can, your choice. If you're a nut-free household, certainly don't have to. Okay, so we're gonna start prepping that. Oh, I forgot to set the timer on my oven. Let me do that so I do not forget. Okay, 7 minutes and counting. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna tilt my screen back down here. I'm gonna get started with the coconut. So we want 3 cups of shredded coconut, which I have here. I'm using unsweetened coconut, okay? And I have my sweetened condensed milk, which, yes, of course, sweetened condensed milk is pure sugar. It is a special treat, for sure, okay? So, but it's gonna be the binder, the glue that holds our bars together. So, really simple. This recipe could not be easier. I'm gonna take my coconut and I'm gonna dump it into my sweetened condensed milk. I'm gonna take my salt and I'm gonna dump it into my sweetened condensed milk. When I first taught myself to make this recipe, I couldn't believe how easy it was and how I haven't been doing this all these years. Why am I spending so much money on candy when my kids want candy when I could just make it myself? And that's pretty much my philosophy with a lot of things, but I never tried it with candy bars, and now I'm sold. Completely sold. So I'm gonna mix this around until it's really well mixed, and we're gonna put it into the freezer. So when you put it into the freezer, you're gonna put it into whatever pan you have lying around, like a brownie pan or casserole dish, and whatever thickness. If you like a thicker candy bar, then I would do it in a dish that's maybe a little bit smaller. If you would like a thin candy bar, then spread it out and put it into a larger dish. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. All right, so once everything is well mixed, you're gonna put it into the freezer for about like 15 minutes. All right, so we're gonna put that into the freezer. And then we have to start melting the chocolate. So I know on the recipe, I told you to use the microwave, and you definitely can use the microwave. There's no shame in that. I do that all the time. But for the purposes of this program, I thought I'd also show you how to melt chocolate on a double boil. So I'm gonna start heating up my hot plate. And when we use the double boil, a double boil is essentially just water in a pot, and the steam from the pot is going to melt our chocolate, and it prevents it from getting burned. The microwave is a really fast, easy way, but you also can melt it in a double boil, and you know your chocolate will never burn. So basically, if I'm doing it with my kids, I do it in a double in the microwave. If I'm doing it without my kids, I tend to do it this way. So I'm going to start letting that melt. Let that get going and melting. All right. And eventually we're going to add the vegetable oil. The vegetable oil is what's going to allow the chocolate to stay smooth. You really want to make sure that the chocolate stays nice and smooth, so that when we're dipping the coconut bars into the chocolate, it doesn't get clumpy. So while we're waiting for that, if it doesn't work, I'm going to pop it into the microwave because, don't want to keep you guys here forever to wait for my chocolate to boil. So while we are waiting for the chocolate to boil, definitely want to set up your parchment paper with on top of your baking tray. And I also sprayed it with a little bit of cooking spray, nonstick cooking spray. So I really would make sure that it isn't going to stick to my pan. I really don't want my candy bars to stick. So you know what? For the sake of the fact that this isn't heating up so well, I'm going to put it into the microwave. And when you put something into the microwave, you really want to make sure that you're doing it at 30-second intervals. If you do it any more than 30-second intervals, you might burn the chocolate, and nothing is worse than burnt chocolate. So I'm going to do it at 30-second amounts and test it after 30 seconds. I'm going to see how it's doing. Does it need a little stir? Generally speaking, I recommend a little stir. And after about a minute and a half, your chocolate is melted. For my chocolate, I'm using semi-sweet chocolate, not milk chocolate. The darker the chocolate, the more antioxidants it has. And when you have more antioxidants, that means it has more nutrition. So anything that allows me to have more chocolate, I'm going to want. Let's tilt back up and say hi. Hi. So for the purposes of this, I'm using semi-sweet chocolate. Really dark chocolate that is 70% cocoa powder or greater is really the best choice, but semi-sweet is usually the most acceptable if you've never enjoyed dark chocolate before. So how many cups is 10 ounces? It's a really good question. It's about 2 cups. About 2 cups of chocolate chips. I'm so glad you're cooking along with me. That makes me so happy. So it's about 2 cups of chocolate chips, I would say, or just shy. Yeah, no problem. Or just shy of a little bit less than the bag, the traditional bags. I'm gonna start heating this up actually, so I can show you the double boil for our strawberry ghosts in a little while. Okay. So the chocolate is melting, I'm just gonna get everything set up. So you really want to make sure things are in front of you, okay, so that nothing gets out of sorts. So I'm gonna take my chocolate. Out of the microwave. And it actually still needs like another few seconds. This chocolate must have been really cold. Let me put it right back in. And the pizza's gonna be any second too. Okay. So, I'm gonna take my pizza out of the oven. I'm gonna show you how it looks. We're gonna have to put it back in. Here we go. So my pizza, you see how it's like slightly browning right now? So what I want to do is I want to put my toppings on it and then put it back into the freezer, into the oven. Okay. So I'm going to take my tomato sauce, put it in the middle, spread it around. Okay? Just like your normal pizza. Then, here's where the mummy part comes in. I'm going to take my cheese, and I'm using string cheese, and I'm going to make it into a mummy pattern, zigzagging across. And I like using string cheese for several reasons. One, it's really easy. I usually have it on hand. And two, it's calorie controlled. So if you're making this for yourself versus for your family or your kids, having a portion of cheese that's controlled, especially if you're a cheese person, string cheese is a great way to do that. Okay. And then here's the cute part. This is the mummy part. I'm going to take my eyes. You see that? Mummy eyes for my mummy pizzas. There we go. And I'll put that back into the oven for another 10 minutes. And I swear your kids and you will think this is the most festive Halloween pizza you've ever had. Okay. So now my chocolate is definitely melted. And I'm going to go back to this. Okay. Go. Now, I know my chocolate is melted because all the little individual chocolate chips are melted. And then when I mix it, it turns into creamy deliciousness. And I'm going to add my oil to it to be sure it stays creamy. Give it a really good mix. And through the magic of television, my bars are frozen in a good way. They're ready to go. So, I'm going to take my bars. This is where it gets fun. Okay? You need a fork and a spoon and a knife. So once yours are nice and solid, it's about 15, 20 minutes in the freezer. I'm going to cut my coconut into the size pieces that you want. Now, I'm a dietitian, right? So I'm going to tell you to have bite-sized pieces. No one's watching you. So you do what you think best. But if you want an appropriately portioned candy bar, you want it to be a bite size, at least a fun size, people. Okay. So I'm going to kind of shape it into the candy bar shape like that. And then I'm going to dip it into the chocolate. All right. There we go. Okay. I'm going to dip it into the chocolate. Now, to make sure it's nice and creamy, I'm going to scoop it out with my fork and let the extra drip off. Oh, guys, I wish there was smell-o-vision because this kitchen's smelling delicious. Okay. All right, here we go. And there you go. I see a comment that is so brilliant, I kind of want to steal it. If you cut them into rectangles, you can call them coconut casket bars. Brilliant. Absolute brilliance. You want to come work for me? Absolute brilliance. Okay. So And then you're going to let it solidify, right? And you can also get creative with this. You don't have to, if you're not like a super chocolate person, you could just dip it in a little bit, right? So you could like half dip it, to our friend's point about the coconut casket bars. You could make it like that, right? So it's like half dipped. It will fall apart more, definitely. It won't be like as candy bar like, but you know, to each their own for sure. You could also shape it if you wanted to get different shapes. You could get your hands dirty and like roll it. Someone's probably going to come up with another creative name for this, right? Roll it into a ball, and then it's like, I don't know, casket poppers. I don't know. All right, so then it's a little bit of more of a ball, but again, you want to make sure that chocolate drips off. And you just kind of keep going until they're all done. If you're doing it with not a lot of time, you can always pop it into the refrigerator or the freezer. I'm going to keep going with this ball method. I think it'll be, my little guy will really like this. But you can definitely put them into the freezer and they'll solidify even faster. Or you could do this like the night before, like tonight, finish them up for Halloween and they'll be done by the morning. Okay. You just keep going and do them in the shapes that you think best. But again, I think they definitely work best in fun size. Okay. So kind of like shaping them like that and putting them in here. Now I'm going to let you guys do all of your bars, and I'm going to move on to the next chocolate dipped thing, but different chocolate dip. Sorry. There we go. And I'm going to set this aside. As delicious as it has been, I'm going to move on to another kind of chocolate. Okay. Right? And that's it. So you see that the ingredients that you're using in this candy bar, you're controlling it. It's dark chocolate. Yes, there's sweetened condensed milk in it, but it's coconut, real coconut, which is loaded with fiber and healthy fats. And you're controlling the amount of salt in there. In a traditional candy bar, there's a lot more salt in there. So it's definitely healthier. Okay, our strawberry ghosts. Now this is fun for anyone of any age, but it's also fun if you're not as much of a chocolate person and you love strawberries. Who doesn't love chocolate-covered strawberries, right? Chocolate-covered strawberries are one of the most delicious things that you can have. So again, with the double boiler, I've been showing you guys how to melt. It really is working now, so let me show you here. So I've put over a pot of hot boiling water. I've put the white chocolate chips, okay? And they're almost there. I'm doing this over a hot plate, so everything takes a little bit longer. But if I kept going with this, it would definitely be just like the microwave. But for the sake of television, since this is going a little slower than I like, I'm gonna put my chocolate chips back in the microwave. White chocolate chips burn really fast, so make sure that you're really checking on it and doing it at small increments, all right? Mine, I'm going to put into the microwave, and then I'm going to get my strawberries ready to go. Beautiful strawberries for this time of year. What a gift. Strawberries are one of the healthiest sources of vitamin C. People always say to me, oh, I need to have more vitamin C. I'll just have some more oranges or I'll take a vitamin C supplement. No, don't do that. Just have some strawberries or some peppers or some kiwis or tomatoes. Those are all really rich sources of vitamin C. Or grapefruit is another good option. Lemon, lime, all great sources of vitamin C. You don't just have to rely on oranges. And especially if you don't really like oranges, try all these other options. Strawberries, especially in kids, are usually pretty well accepted if they're not allergic. And it's a great choice for vitamin C. Okay. Chocolate chips need a few more seconds in there. Again, 30-second intervals. So what I did was I took my strawberries and I washed them and I dried them really, really well. You want to leave the stems on because they are your holder, right? If for any reason you want to cut them off later, You definitely can. For this recipe though, you need 2 cups of chocolate chips, the vegetable oil, mini chocolate chips, and the strawberries. That's it. So you're prepping your strawberries, you're washing them, leaving the greens on for a holder. You're getting your mini chocolate chips ready, your oil to mix in so it's nice and creamy chocolate, and we're gonna get dunking. I'll show you how to do it. Okay. Chocolate-covered strawberries are usually so expensive in the store, and I never really understood it until I started doing it myself. It's just a lot of work. And they tend to use like these big, beautiful strawberries that are really hard to find. So, but you can do it yourself and it's a lot more affordable. Okay, so I have my chocolate and I mixed in my oil. Oop, splatter me a little bit. Thank you very much, chocolate. Okay, so I'm gonna mix that around again so it's nice and smooth and creamy. Now, white chocolate is one of those chocolates that I think does melt better over the stove, which is why I was really trying hard, but wasn't cooperating as fast as I wanted it to today. Okay, so you're gonna hold it by the stem, and again, you gotta have your parchment paper ready to go. So let me move that into your line of sight so you guys can see what I'm doing. And I hear my pizza. My pizza's getting ready to beep at us. I can show you exactly what it looks like. Okay, so you're gonna take your chocolate and you're gonna dip it, take your strawberry and you're gonna dip it straight in and straight out and let the excess chocolate drip off. Okay, so you don't want like a thick layer. You want it to be thin. Put it down. And I wish I could zoom in for you guys to really show you. But see that strawberry? I'm gonna take little chocolate chips and just like I did with the bananas at the beginning, I'm gonna give it little eyes so that it looks like a ghost. I'll do it again and I will point it directly at you. If your strawberry is a little taller than you'd like this one is, I kind of like tilt it to the sides like a buoy. Oh, there's my pizza. Okay. And then I let it drip off. All right, so I tilted it really so you guys can see it. And again, I'm gonna take my mini chocolate chip. I think the mini chocolate chips just make it look so much cuter. And I'm gonna give it little eyes like that, little spooky face. You definitely do not have to do it exactly the way I'm saying to do it, right? You could do it where it's like a little smiley face or, you know, just put chocolate chip on the outside. I just think for Halloween, it makes it so much cuter. Okay, I'm gonna let this settle and then I will show you my pizza because it really looks cute and beautiful. Okay, so I'm gonna take my strawberries. I'm gonna dunk them on all sides. Again, like I said, the buoy method. Up and straight up and down. And you can do this with any chocolate. You could do this with a combination of both. You could dye the white chocolate and make them orange. You could make them green and make them Frankensteins. You could do lots of fun things with it, but it's getting your kids or you to eat a little more fruit on Halloween, and that's a win in my book. Okay, so you guys will just keep going and doing all of your strawberries. I'm gonna do one more because there are 4 members in my family and I wanna have one too. Nothing wrong with having a special, what I like to call specials or a sometimes treat. Gotta have everything in moderation here. Okay. There you go. All right. So the last recipe that we're gonna work on today, hold on. Trying to get to that. Sorry guys, technological difficulties. Give me just 1 second. We're gonna do our apple monsters. There we go, apple monsters. Okay, so for my apple monsters, what we're gonna do, and this is a no-cook recipe, so it's really, really fun. Okay, So I'm going to take my cutting board and I have my apple. You can use whatever apple you prefer for this. It does not matter what kind of apple. It doesn't matter if it's green, if it's red, it's whatever. You're going to quarter it. So let me just show you a trick thing. If I tried to cut it as it's wobbling, I could really hurt myself, right? Always have things on a flat surface, okay? And then when you cut out the seeds, you're going to put it on an angle, leaving it flat side down, and cut out the inside like that. It's much safer than doing it up this way, or doing it while it's wobbling, or doing it like this, okay? Now, here's how you're gonna make the mouth. So you're gonna, once you've quartered all four, and I'll show you that again, leaving it on its side, you don't need a fancy apple corer, no reason for that. You can do everything with a knife. A knife is the best, a sharp knife. And again, using a sharp knife is really how you prevent yourself from getting injured, believe it or not. Dull knives is how you get hurt because you're much easier to slip. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to, again, knife safety, keeping it flat. I'm gonna cut into my apple, but not cutting all the way through. And I'm gonna cut out a mouth. I guess I can't cut a mouth out and talk at the same time. Ha. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I cut out a mouth, right? And I'll actually do that one again because that one wasn't my best. Let me show you guys a better one. There we go. Much better. Okay. So you see, I've made it into a mouth. Now, for this recipe, you need apples. If you're making them ahead of time, this would be the time to sprinkle it with lemon juice because the lemon juice is going to prevent it from turning brown. So definitely something that you want to, that you would want to do if you're making them ahead, like say like before your kids go trick-or-treating or something like that. All right, so now you're going to take your peanut butter and you're going to spread it on the inside of your mouth. Okay. It's going to be your glue and it's your protein. I use all natural peanut butter. The only ingredients in my peanut butter is peanuts and salt. That's it. No palm oil, no trans fats, no sugar. And that's how peanut butter should be. That's the good, heart healthy, brain healthy form of peanut butter. If you don't like peanut butter, you're allergic to peanut butter, you could also do this with almond butter. You could do this with soy nut butter. You could do this with sunflower seed butter. There are no rules, okay? So now I've gone inside my mouth with my peanut butter, and I'm gonna take my healthy, homemade, but you don't have to use homemade, pumpkin seeds, and I'm gonna make teeth by gently inserting it into my mouth. Make sure you guys can see that. There we go. So I carved pumpkins with my kids last weekend and I roasted pumpkin seeds with them. 300 degrees, 40 minutes, salt and olive oil. That's it. But you can also, like I said, you could do this with a store-bought pumpkin seeds for sure. Okay. Then leave room for my tongue. So I'm going to do that one more time. There we go. Pumpkin seeds, especially if you're allergic to nuts, are a great source of protein. They're also a great source of omega-3 rich fatty acids. I took my strawberry and I sliced it and turned it into a tongue. I have that there. And then I have to make my eyes. So I happen to have these large white chocolate discs lying around. If you don't have them, you could just use chocolate chips for the eyes. But I found these and was so excited to make huge white part of the eyes too. So I'm going to use some peanut butter as my glue and put my eyes on. And again, you can put them as far apart or as close together as you want. Make sure it really sticks on there. There we go. Okay, and now I have my semi-sweet chocolate chip. Let's stick that on there too. And this is just a super silly, super fun way, again, to enjoy Halloween without candy, right? How adorable is that? You could make it spookier than this, but I definitely wanted to make it cute and fun. So I'll show you guys how to do that one more time. And certainly, if there are questions, definitely can take them now as I'm showing you guys how to do this one last thing and show you how to present everything together. You also could buy candy eyes. Yes, that is a good point. I didn't have any, and I couldn't get any. Everything Halloween this year was super hard to get a hold of. But if you have candy eyes at home, all the power to you. You could make candy eyes. Or, sorry, use candy eyes and not make your own. But again, candy eyes are made with a little bit less healthy ingredients, so I like doing it this way. Okay. Instead of the pumpkin seeds, if for any reason you don't have pumpkin seeds, you also could do it with Rice Krispie cereal. You could do it with, let's see, pretzels. You can really do it with anything. And this is like such a fun Halloween snack or part of Halloween lunch. Definitely want to make sure if you are doing safe, socially distant trick-or-treating that you're doing it in a way when you're fed. It's a lot of energy. You don't want them just to be having a ton of candy. And you definitely want to have some protein from the peanut butter or seed butter, whatever you're using, and have some healthy fats from the peanut butter and the apple. It'd be a great pre-trick-or-treating snack, or just like any day snack, honestly. This is just a spin on apples with peanut butter. Here's my second guy. He came out a little better, I think. All right, so you could just then make like a whole platter. I'll show you how to do that, and then I'll take any questions that you might have about what we talked about today. I'm going to add this to my platter that that I had made before. You can see kind of how you can put it all together. Oh, the mummy pizzas. Yes, I'm going to add that to my platter so you can see what that looks like. All together, your great Halloween celebration. Here's how my mummy pizzas turned out. How cute! You guys see that? So adorable, right? And again, such a great snack to have or as part of your dinner. They're so excited to go celebrate Halloween. We all are, even grown-ups, right? That you got to have something nutritious. So even if you had just a couple of these apple mouths or monster mouths and you had 2 mummy pizzas, you're good to go. And you could create like a really beautiful, once your chocolate totally cools, have like a really beautiful platter here. My candy is a little too, not quite dry enough to, to pick up. But this really beautiful Halloween display. And at least everything on this here is healthy, right? We have our homemade candy bars that we definitely could add, and you could sprinkle some Halloween candy within this. But what a beautiful way to celebrate Halloween without all of that emphasis on candy. So I hope that these ideas were something that inspires you to have Halloween in a way that's a little bit healthier this year and bring some joy. We all need some joy right now to celebrate definitely Halloween in a safe way. And if there are any questions, I'll take them now. Let's take a look. Oh, I guess there was a question about what the oven temperature was set at. I'm sorry about that. I set it, when I make pizza, it's set at about 425 or 450 degrees. Hot, hot, hot. The hotter the pizza oven, the better. Can you freeze the coconut bars? Definitely you can freeze the coconut bars. I prefer my candy bars from the freezer. So most of my candy that I enjoy, unless it's like it's a gummy thing, I'm putting it in the freezer. And I actually like that trick of putting candy in the freezer because it's out of sight, out of mind. Research shows when your candy is present, and especially for like days after Halloween, if it's in like a bowl that you leave in the middle of the living room or a bowl in the middle of the counter, and you can just kind of casually walk by, especially if you're working from home, and just pop one and then pop another one and pop another one. It can get dangerous really fast. And you don't want to find yourself in a place where you've gained 10 pounds from Halloween candy. So I would say keeping it in the freezer is a great place to put your candy. I also would say getting the candy out of the house. Halloween is one day, and it's a wonderful day, and it's a great day to celebrate the holiday. But once the holiday is over, my advice as a dietitian is always say, it's one day, holiday is over, let's move on. So whether that means donating your candy or putting your candy away in the closet where you can't see it, they're definitely both good choices. Any other questions here? All right, so there was a question here also about doing the fake out with the pizzas. Can you do it with an English muffin? Yeah, you can. You can do them with English muffins. That's another really fast way that you can make these special mummy pizzas. You do not have to make them with the dough that I showed you, but I thought that the dough that I showed you was a really great dough that you could use for a lot of different things. It's very versatile and very easy, and it's yeast-free. It's a great option. I've never tried it with gluten-free flour, but I challenge any of you who are gluten-free to try it. I'm sure it would work. And definitely you can make one huge pizza, was one of the comments. Yeah, you could get dough from the pizzeria even and make one large pizza. You could make a large dessert pizza. I challenge you to do that. I've done that before for my kids. I've made like a hazelnut chocolate spread pizza with, you could, in this instance, you could spread the chocolate hazelnut spread on the bottom of the pizza dough, and you could use bananas as the mummy, the white part of the mummy instead of cheese. That would be really cool. So there's lots of creative, inventive ways that you could take these recipes down a different way or invent them as different option for a different holiday or for an every weeknight meal. And if there are no other questions, doesn't look like there are, just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I teach regular cooking programs through this channel, the Center for Healthy Living, and I'd love to see you back in the Zoom room sometime. When you get a chance, go and take a look at it. All right? Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, happy Halloween.